there. Hello. Got a camera just for the intro, just to show you more of the setup. Almost a behind-the-scenes camera. Welcome to the intellectual... Nearly said international again. The Intellectual Abattoir podcast with my guest, Glenn Wool. Glenn Wool is an amazing comedian. Going through a divorce at the moment. We speak about that. I didn't want to, we got into it, but I didn't want to get upset. It's still very raw for him, and I've been there. He's a great comedian. He talked about how when he went to America, and he's got a bit in his set at the moment. He goes, I went to America to find fame and fortune, and I'm back. So he went to America. He did some Mick rubbed shoulders with some very, there's some name dropping in here on my part. Me going, oh, I forgot to ask him if he'd met Norm Macdonald. Being a fellow Canadian. Norm Macdonald, for those who don't know, is the greatest comedian, in my opinion, that ever did do it. Love him. Found his podcast better than his stat. I just love Norm Macdonald. Total fearless comedian. We speak about his time in America. We talk about generational things, like the difference between our kids or Gen Z. Millennials is the one, isn't it? I think they're the worst generation. Shouldn't say that, but they probably are. Maybe the reasons for that, the reason that our Gen X, I feel I am, is... And obviously, maybe everyone thinks they're generation, but I'm very thankful that I was born in 1975. I think I had the best of everything. Maybe not financially like a boomer. That person that's just sort of like in their 70s and owns 3 houses and just had a normal job. They were fucking lucky, weren't they? Maybe not. Well, I don't know. But, so we talk about generational differences. We talk about stand-up. We talk about a bit he did. He was on a show and he did a bit where trigger warning, he does use the R word. But as it is intended, in North America, it means Down syndrome. I think here it just meant moronic. But the R word is used. But I think it's when you're talking about a bit, it's a concept. So I'm not going to take it out. But just to let you know, if you don't like the R word, fuck off. No, I didn't mean that. I mean, don't listen to it. But it's a really good chat, a really fun chat. I see him at gigs, and I always really sort of like have a good conversation with Glenn. So I thought I'd get him on, and it's very brave of him to sort of like. He's been through the mill. Maybe he still is in the mill. Isn't quite out of the mill. I don't know what sort of mill it is, but anyway, it's all going to get better. I know it is, and he's a very, very talented comedian. As I say, his stand-up isn't like there's no sort of like cheap tricks to it. It's very much like that kind of North American stand-up, where it's like ideas and almost like philosophy, like way of viewing the world and saying, well, like I said, the bit we speak about in particular is him going, well, if you think this, then you should think that, and then you have to go, he's right, actually, but I don't. Why don't I? And then it's challenging, not challenging as in. Sometimes when you say a bit's challenging, people think you mean it's hard. It's sort of like difficult to get through. Challenging, like watching Serbian film. I don't mean it's like that, or like Hostel. Might be a bit more ubiquitous reference. Sort of like it's not challenging as in like just making you ask yourself a couple of questions, and it's like I don't know. If I don't know my mind as well as I thought I did, or if I'm not as enlightened as I thought I was, I don't want to fucking hear that. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into it. And here he is on the screen from the east of England, my neck of the woods. It's Glenn Wool. Hello, Glenn.
Hello.
How are you doing, man?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. We've had some lovely weather.
Yeah, I actually went out and got this. went and got a coffee, which I didn't really want it, but I thought before I've been in all day. I thought before I record, I'm going to go for a walk, and I just followed the sun. Like that side of the street was sunny, and I walked up there, and then I walked up there, and then I went and got this overpriced coffee from one of those new places where they seem to, I don't know, you walk into these sort of hipster coffee places, and they just stare at you like, what the fuck are you doing in here? And it's like, I've come to get a coffee. Do you know what I mean? Is that the...
Yeah.
Have you noticed this in the young people? They seem to sort of like court autism or something.
Yeah, yeah. You get the sense that they think they're too big for their job.
It is
Like,
that, but it's also they sort of look at you like, okay, can I get? They're like, hello, and you're like, yeah, can I have a black Americano? They're like, yeah, like I suppose so. It's like that sort of vibe.
right. Have you paid cash? Always pay cash when they're giving you that kind of business, because that's the great leveler. Because as cool as they think they are, they can't make change.
Yeah, yeah, they got a cut. Yeah.
They'll be thumbing it around from dish to dish.
Speaking of which, as I've got a Canadian on, I'm obsessed with Canadians' opinions of Trudeau. Where do you stand on Trudeau?
I'm fine with them, but I haven't lived there.
Hmm.
I was dragged here to live under Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, no, and it didn't just start. I was here for Liz Truss.
Hmm.
So you have to anything Trudeau does, you have to put that like, well, is he as bad as Liz Truss?
Well, that's the
Like
thing I don't know. Yeah, because obviously over here we get what we get, like snippets, and all I know of Trudeau is the truckers. Uh, Also, the thing with ages a while ago now, Jordan Peterson and the pronouns. So I think with Trudeau, I always get the impression like, oh, is it like a dystopian sci-fi film over there? But it probably obviously isn't. But I don't know how bad it is.
no, no. I mean, I don't know what was going on with those truckers anyway. It wasn't for me. I was like, okay, I can see your point, but you're also like, you're not, you're not doctors.
No, they're not doctors.
You're truckers. Like, if the doctors had a rally in the middle of Regina, telling everyone what the best way to get from Lethbridge
Yeah,
to
that's true.
Edmonton was, I'd be like, well, why? I
That's
mean,
true. Yeah,
sure, you got an opinion, but like,
yeah.
I'm going to talk to truckers on this.
No, that is
Until
absolute.
you get the truckers to join your rally, your route to Edmonton it's insignificant. Like, yeah, you can.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe they just really loved the film Convoy, the Chris Christopherson vehicle. That was
That's right.
when I was growing up. That was classed as entertainment when I was young. When you look back on it now, you're like, oh, this is shit. It's just blokes driving around beeping their horns.
Yeah, yeah, there was something magical about the idea of the CB radio, but I mean, look at it this way, it gave birth to this generation, with mobile phones. It was that spark of, oh man, we could be driving around talking to each other, then we'll get stuff done. No,
Because I grew up, my brother had a CB radio in his bedroom, and my dad erected like a massive whip, like a big aerial. So on the
no.
side of our council house, we had like a scaffold pole with an aerial on top of that. And I was known as an ankle biter. I'd just go on there and terrorise people's conversations, like just sort of like interrupt and key over them, and they'd say "smash a window," which means let's change channel. So I grew up with the CB was
Yeah. Well, there's an American comic named Ryan Singer, and I was he had a CB radio the last time I was in America. Now this would be about 10 years ago, but he genuinely will drive around in his car, uh, ankle biting truckers,
yeah.
and acting like he's his own truck, and
I used to do
his
this thing where
call
you could
handle is his call handle was Monster Hunter.
right.
He was making me laugh. It's like, oh, dead board. I got Monster Hunter out here. Anybody else got the dicks out?
Yeah, it was a fun thing. That it was a fun thing. Do you know what Polari is? I think Polari
Yeah.
was. Polari. It's like to have your own language was cool as fuck back then in the 80s. I mean,
Uh, yeah. I don't know who was talking Polari to you, just
no one was talking Polari. For those who don't know, Polari was a
these really cool guys are
yeah.
speaking Polari, trying to get me to come downtown.
Where the word naff comes from. Like we got the expression naff meaning lame.
Yeah.
That means not available for fucking. It's double F. It means like a straight geezer or a breeder. So that's where that's the only Polari I know.
All right.
Yeah, naff means oh no, he's naff. He's straight. So stop.
Wow.
Yeah. I was wondered where that word came from, and then I found out.
Yeah. because I always thought, I was talking to a friend about Polari the other day, and I always thought that it was its own language, but apparently it's like just a heavily sort of accented Cockney rhyming scheme. Like
Yeah.
you can understand it, but because we were talking about Kenneth Williams and
Mm.
the fact that he used to speak Polari to the other to another character. But and I was like, well, did anybody ever check what they were saying? And he's like, no, not really.
Yeah. For those who don't know, it was like a dialect that gay people would use when being gay was was still illegal, and
Yeah, it wasn't exclusive for gays. Also,
they did adopt it, I think, didn't they? They started
yeah,
to
the
yeah.
gypsy community, I believe, is where it came from.
Oh
But
right, okay. So yeah, so you mentioned America there, because obviously you're from North America, obviously Canadian,
yeah,
and the thing about if anyone hasn't seen Glenn stand up, is an amazing stand up, and you've got that very North American style, which is like they are jokes, but it's so much more sophisticated than basically what I'm saying. When you came to England and saw like what some people do, like I'm not going to dig anyone out in particular, but you're not like one liner or puns. Did you just think, what the fuck is he doing? Because you don't have that, do you, over there?
well, no, but with I came over with Stuart Francis the first time
That's
around,
true.
so
That's true. Yeah, but he
it
was a
wasn't
master of the
that
form.
different for me. But Stuart's very much British style stand up, I think. But no, yeah, I appreciated it. But yeah, I had a bit of Canada is different than America, where we've got a bit more of a British background there,
Mm.
and yeah, yeah,
And more of
it's
a British circuit because you have yuck yucks like we had jonglers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It is. I mean, I'm glad I came to Britain and not. I didn't like. I did end up going to America. I got successful in Britain, and then I signed to a big deal in America, and I was there for a while. I didn't particularly enjoy it, and then I moved back to Canada after all that, and that's where I thought I'd stay until I met a young lady from England online, and I moved over here and had children with her, and now we're getting divorced.
So
So
yeah, something we are bonded over of late is you're going through something I've been through. It's
mm,
not the funnest of fun, is it?
no, no. Well, it's like you say, where I've been moved to in East Anglia.
Yeah, it's not because I grew up here and moved away, and I think anyone moving, I don't know what it is if it's like this in America. Or, I keep saying America, you know what I mean, the continent of
Yeah,
America.
yeah,
I don't know if it's the same, but like if you come to England in America, the US of America, if you say that they love their hometown and they whoop their home state, whereas here we want to hear it how shit it is, don't we? There's a big
yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah.
And because
And
I grew up here, I just think, why would anyone move here? But I think everyone in England, if someone's from England and don't hate where they grew up, I'm suspicious of them. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
well, they're middle class. That's what
That's
they're
true.
called.
So do you have class in America, in Canada as much? Because in America, I've noticed they don't really have class.
Yeah. I mean, there are private schools, but public schools in Canada means the exact opposite of what public school means here.
Mm.
In a weird, it's like the way comedy clubs all have to have the same name across the world. Like, there's three different iterations of the Comedy Store, none connected to each other. Well, just think of another word for comedy club. You don't have to call it the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
So the fact that public school in Canada was even called that, you could have called it anything. Um, so I mean, there is class, but it's easier to go between them because I don't think there's an accent delineating between say between three classes. Although if you had like a real Canadian accent, I
Mm.
think like that would probably stop you from being in charge unless you were really good at your job, and then everybody would just go, okay, well Terry's in charge because who else is gonna take it from him, eh?
So that accent you did, is that like your equivalent of like a hillbilly sort of thing?
Yeah, but I mean, you would like that guy wouldn't be, like if he wouldn't be unapproachable or
Yeah, not like a redneck. I know redneck's more of a this more of a insult, isn't it? Or like,
yeah, and I mean he could rise to a certain prominence. I just think the class system's not as pronounced in.
I think only India's got more than here. Maybe I think, and we took that there. I think that was something we exported. Like,
Yeah, I wondered about that, but I don't know if you exported it. You maybe it was always there. It just helped you define it.
yeah, because when I was in America, I had this conversation. I was in a bar. I was in lots of bars, but one bar I was in, I was like, God, everyone just talks to everyone. And I realised that, and it wasn't until you step out, I realised how, because we've got the same language, obviously when you're in Spain or whatever, you don't know what the fuck's going on. But over there, I was like, oh, I could really see what it's like here, there, when I was there sort of thing. I was like, oh God, because I think what we do, there was that, I don't know if you're ever aware of it, famous sketch with Ronnie Corbett, Ronnie
Yeah,
Barker, and I look up to him, down to him.
yeah. Wasn't John Cleese
Yeah,
in
John
it
Cleese was
too?
the tall dude, yeah, the upper
Yeah,
class.
yeah, yeah.
And I just realised that when we sort of like meet here, just English people just do that so much. I think like we sort of scan each other, like dogs sniffing each other's asses, and we're like, oh, look up to him, look down to him. It's so true.
Yeah, yeah. I've always found it weird because they just couldn't tell where I was from.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
in green rooms, I just get sort of like oh, just give him the one size fits all treatment.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I
Don't
try not to have a chip on my shoulder about it, but it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I never understood it because I would meet people independently of each other and they'd act one way, and then I'd see them come into a green room and start acting a different way. I'm like, neither of you are like this. I don't know why, but it would be sort of that subservient sort of showing of the neck and it didn't make much sense to me, but
No, it is a strange dance we do, and I think that's the thing in Britain. Our culture is so beneath. I don't know if Canada's the same. All these things are so just behind a little veil. They're so beneath, just slightly beneath the surface. Nothing's overt or like we would find Americans brash, but I just think they're just honest. If they want
yeah.
something, they'll say, I've got ambition, and we'd be like, oh, you can't say it. You can be ambitious as long as nobody ever knows you are ambitious over it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can be ambitious, but it has to be like being gay in the 50s. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do that on your own time. There's bars for you and your
Got
people.
your own language. So you mentioned there you're going through a divorce. I've been through a divorce. I do think it's a grieving process. I don't know what stage you're at. I'm now married again. So,
Yeah.
don't know. But I'm very much in love, Glenn. But there's not
Whoa.
something I thought I would do again. But then,
Yeah, I cannot foresee myself marrying ever again.
it's a bit
I
like that terrible hangover. I'm never going to drink again. And then next Friday, you're on the piss. It's a bit like you do
yeah,
forget.
no, I no, it's just taken so long to get over this. It's like it's now getting to the point. It's like a bad acid trip, like
Mm.
where I don't know if you ever taken acid, but
Hmm.
sometimes it just lasts like 3 hours too long, and you're like, oh no, is this just forever? Is it like, am I gonna now just be on acid? Like, do I have to go live in a home? it, it is. I'm over the peak, but it has been a good year or so.
Yeah. So would you say you're out of denial if you subscribe
Oh
to
no,
these?
yeah, it's happened. It's happened. It's
So
happened
you're in
quite a
acceptance still, you mean? Is that what you mean? It's
Yeah, it's accept, but like usually, because divorces take such a long time. Usually, you're still married. I'm not even married anymore. She told me she wanted a divorce, and I said, "Well, give me a month to try and change your mind." And she just sort of was like, "Okay." Um,
she sort of humoured you or didn't? So
She did humor me, but
right.
in no
No.
way that she was ever gonna. And there turned out to be reasons for that we won't go into. But
Yeah, no, yeah, of course, I'm not going to pry at all. But I'm just saying that kind of rug pull. Mine was amicable, as in we both. I don't know. We grew apart, really. Well, we grew up together and then grew apart. I met my first wife when I was 19.
Wow.
I know, yeah, and we split when I was 45.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but yeah. So basically, but we didn't fall out, and there was no that someone making up their mind and then just bringing it on you. I can only imagine must be such a rug pull. I don't know how you trust anyone again.
It must have been hard for your wife to enter back into the scene at the age of 30. Best years sort of behind her.
The thing is, she turned up. Well, she popped into my wedding and came and gave my wife a hug and that.
Wow.
Yeah, she came to pick the kids up, so it can work. But I don't know. We were all lucky. Me, my ex, my wife, and her ex. We all get on, and no one's really hates anyone. I know that's not always possible, but I still had. It's still surreal. It's still surreal because I never had a problem. I find it strange calling my wife, because in my head, my wife was this other person. That was her title, and this was my girlfriend. And now it seems really weird. I still feel a bit icky, or not icky, but I still feel a bit. I have to remind myself to call her my wife. I don't know if that'll ever change.
Well, here's a weird story that is quite appropriate for the time because I'll tell you what I came across. I'll tell you what happened, and then you tell me and if I did the right thing. On Facebook, you know those someone you might know is on Facebook. My first wife came up in that, and her profile picture is her in a wedding dress, looking beautiful, and she's happy, and she's got like a double-barreled last name, and this is all in her profile, so it's not for me, like that didn't end very well, but I was not a very good husband.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been going through this rough divorce now, I've sort of realized like I didn't deserve what happened to me this time around, but I definitely deserve it for how I've treated her. So I thought I'd like to get in contact with her. And I took that but then I was like in a coffee shop going, do I friend request her? Because she's not, she hasn't friend requested me, it came by.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So I thought to myself, well, all I want to do is apologize to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sent her a friend request, and now she can either delete that or say yes. So it's not like I haven't just contacted her out of nowhere.
No. What I would say is if I'm just really trying to imagine the exact same scenario with me, is there an element of you want her to see that you've got your karma in a way?
Yeah, well, I want to apologize to her.
But also to go, look, like in the terms of the universe, like I feel like I would feel like if I'd felt like I'd wronged someone or wasn't a good husband, was your words, I would want them to know I've sort of got my comeuppance, so we're all good. I don't know. I know it's not rational, but I mean, is there an element of?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's done. It's already like.
Well done. I think that's good. No, I think if you sent some weird message or whatever, but just sending a friend request. It's an olive branch that she can easily ignore, so I don't think it's in any way overstepping the mark.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's okay. But that thing, like I say, I always thought this about a bit of a tangent back in the 90s when when OJ got let off, got found acquitted, basically.
Yeah.
Now I know they did that because of the Rodney King thing.
Right.
And I sort of think that you shouldn't do that with the law, but this sort of like cosmic karma tampering, I feel that's kind of maybe what would have been my impetus to go, look, I know that I treated you bad, but now someone's treated me bad. I want you to know that in some way. Maybe there's some sort of closure for her. That's how I might feel.
Well, also, I would like to know how her life's going, and I hope she's had all the best. And it seems like that. It seems like she's happy. So
Yeah. I met my ex for a coffee about 2 weeks ago. She works in retail, and she was looking at a shop near where I live now. And she said, "Do you want to meet up for a coffee?" And we had this kind of very civil closure, about an hour and a half together, where she just said, "Do you remember this? Do you remember that?" And then this happened, and she told me a little bit because she's got a boyfriend about where she was all after it and that, and it just felt so healthy, Glenn. It really did. It's the sort of thing that I would have thought was weird 10, 20 years ago, but it felt so. I was like, oh, I'm really glad that she's happy, and
yeah.
I mean, that's the dream. That's the sort of goal where you want to get. I mean, it's not ideal splitting up. The goal is not to split up, I guess, but that's happened, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, let me fix the first one.
No, I understand. I'm just saying I just think when you're a bit older and just when you're younger, it's either like I always found that strange, really, that when you're in love with someone and it goes wrong, when you're young, like I mean young, like at school, all of a sudden you had to hate them. It's a very strange thing. But you did mention, so do you kind of feel that you're here now, aren't you? You are not stuck here because it's your children. It's an amazing thing having children, but I'm kind of like stuck because it's a shit place to live for doing comedy, and it's nowhere near anywhere.
Yeah. That is. I don't feel stuck. I feel blessed to have two wonderful children in my life, but it is very difficult. It's there's no two ways about it. I have to drive long distances. There were distances that were long when I had a family to come home to, and now I drive really long ways and I get home to an empty house a lot of the time. It's not it's not optimum, but like you say, who knows what the future holds, and maybe I'll find somebody better for me that
Of course you will.
yeah. So it's depressing right now, and it's not depressing for her. She's found somebody else almost amazingly quickly after needing a fast divorce.
Yeah,
Who
but
knows? I guess she just opened herself to the universe and was blessed quite speedily.
I know. I don't know, man. These fucking, what do you say? All these empty, stupid platitudes. But you will. It's just there's brighter times ahead. But
oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm having fun too. Like I say, I come home to an empty house. I also come home to a very quiet house.
No, yeah, and you come home to a house. I mean, fucking hell, my kids are never going to own a house. I don't think so. At least we've got that going for us. I own a house as well. Just don't want to brag, but I do. So you mentioned going to America there, and I remember seeing you on. I got it downloaded somewhere. Paul Provenza's Green Room.
Oh yeah,
that must have been an experience because there was some, legends on there. Belzer is now no longer with us.
No, he's gone. I'm sure his little dog's gone too.
Yeah, he had a little dog with him, didn't he? Was he straight, Belzer?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I didn't hang out with him, but I've never.
But he's very camp, isn't he? He's like a very he's sort of like a willowy camps. New York. He strikes me as like a mean queen sort of geezer. But also, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. He what I found funny about him was that he was going off on Bill Cosby, and it was the first time I'd ever heard anybody say anything bad about Bill Cosby.
God, that's interesting. Yes, get into that because he was very strange. He was known as one of the best comedians, because he apparently could do these killer long 3-hour shows. But also not just how skilled he was as a storyteller, but also a beacon of virtuosity, and
But what Belzer was mad about was that Cosby had stolen a bunch of his material and done it on Filthy in Philadelphia, which I'd never heard that Cosby was a thief.
Me neither, actually.
In the comedy world, that is as bad as it can get.
Well, the raping was worse.
But that's what I'm saying. Surely Belzer knew about both.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, I don't mind the old.
You know,
The Puff Daddy
adults
stuff.
like to drink. Okay, it's comedy.
I can't do a Cosby, but it's that sort of thing.
No, you're wrong. But because Cosby, my parents took me to a Bill Cosby concert when I was 12, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a comedian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it always used to be this nice story I could tell to like journalists and stuff because you like you say
You're the
he's
real victim here.
yeah, yeah, and it's like on my Wikipedia page too. Like Glenn Wool was, I think,
Heavily influenced by Bill Cosby.
yeah.
My idol. Yeah, but was he as good as they say? Obviously, I'm not going to see him now, but they reckon he could sort of have a big arena, hang on every word, and make it feel intimate. And
Yeah, I mean it was weird where he was. It was a place called Saskatoon, which wasn't a booming metropolis, so it was in the middle of Canada. But apparently he loved Saskatchewan. For I guess in the '60s he used to go up there, and he said just liked it because he could walk around and nobody would hassle him for being black. It was just a friendly place. So
oh, that's
that's where,
interesting. Because I'd
yeah,
imagine there's not that many black people there.
there wouldn't have been at that time, but I mean, there wouldn't have been none, but it would just be like,
The people are just less race obsessed. Americans are race obsessed, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. I think in the same way, the Copenhagen, that's where apparently why Copenhagen has a jazz festival because the jazz musicians all loved going there
Right.
because it was just they could just walk around and it was just normal that was
Yeah.
just a guy. They didn't have any of the baggage of America.
Yeah, well, I guess just a thought occurred to me as was this class system here. I guess that's a very visible, not to say class divide, but it's a division of the populace, isn't it? You got the black people, and they were this underclass and slaves, possibly descendants of. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's very difficult to. I sort of like used to think America was very ahead of the curve in race relations, but I don't know. Again, at the moment, I'm sort of thinking they seem like they're not now. It's like you need to fucking this critical race theory, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah, well, I think with anything, the stronger lines or the bigger barrier, I would say would be socioeconomic.
Yeah, totally. But I guess that's I was saying in America, it's a visual representation,
Yeah,
or an
yeah,
assumption could be.
yeah. It's not, they have, it's still there. It's just for poor people. Like they're
Yeah,
still
for
allowed
sure.
to hate poor people that much.
I actually heard this interesting theory once that African American culture is actually redneck culture because they were around the poor people. Then you adopt your culture, and a lot of African American culture, like the very God fearing, and some of the expressions the way they talk is actually it's more redneck than anything. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can see
So
that.
you're in America. You're on and also David Belzer, who's not probably that well known here. David
Richard,
Tell. Richard, sorry, I was going to say about David Tell. Richard Belzer, and then David Tell was on.
yeah, yeah. He's a legend.
He is a legend, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird because Provenza didn't tell me he wanted me to do that bit
I was
about
going to bring
Buzz
that up
Lightyear.
because you know
Yeah.
like that old thing they say now, or you couldn't do that now. You couldn't do that bit now.
No, no, I think I'd get in trouble.
So
But yeah, I
was that
couldn't
sprung
do
on
it
you?
then though too. Like it was pretty much it was tough bit to work out. And I worked it out in Edinburgh because I just gave them. I gave Edinburgh the benefit of the doubt that they could understand something like that.
Hmm.
And I was playing the Pleasance. I was doing a bit about retarded porn in
Yeah.
the Pleasance, and people were walking out, and there was arguments going on in the crowd. And some people were like, because it was a solid point. Uh,
Can I just give you my interpretation of that bit then? Because I think the bit is about if you believe in equality and treating people as equals, then they have to be allowed to make horrific life choice mistakes. But
oh
pretty
yeah,
much that's the point of the bit, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, you want to go, we want to treat them as humans, but we must also protect them. It's like that. Those two things can't jive, can they?
yeah, and also the overlying idea got co-opted by woke society, where the point was, well, why aren't they allowed to be bad actors? Or you know,
Hmm.
like actors were always playing the physically different. You know, like an actor would put on a wig or whatever. Um, and it was sort of like, well, you know, don't do that. Surely there's an actor with the affliction that actor is, you know, what,
Hmm.
like Gary Oldman would come along and play all the afflicted, or
But isn't
Daniel
that the
Day
point of
Lewis.
acting? I always think that's kind of the point of acting as well, isn't it?
Sure, sure, but you know, so to you know, but the people who would get offended by that bit, are they offended by that idea? Like, were they, you know, when an actor with a physical disability gets a role, are
Hmm.
they like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
should be an actor, you
Because
know?
the thing is that what the bit is Glenn says, like, you know, like disabled people, should they be allowed to do porn? And it's like, well, they go to Hollywood with the dream of being an actor, and they should be like, if they can follow their dreams to be a failed. And it's sort of saying, yeah, like I said, it's kind of like um, I don't know. It is a complicated. I don't know. Maybe because I'm into comedy, I sort of like scratch beneath the surface. But did people just say the people walking out just thought it was mean, or did they miss the point completely?
Some people in this, some people had a problem with the word retarded, but they
But
of
that's not a
course.
word here that we use that much.
No, but then they had, that was what was causing the arguments in the crowd, because people were like, you don't use the R word, and the people were like, he's from North America, it's
Yeah,
still acceptable.
because
It was about the word, but conceptually, the bit was strong.
but
It
that's what I'm
just
saying
didn't.
about your style. It's a very like a mirror, and it's like if you find this uncomfortable, you need to question why you do. And I think sometimes that's just too much for people. People don't like to be challenged.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the time, they don't know what to do, because if they don't laugh, you think, oh, you don't, they're bothered by the situation, because if they don't laugh, people will think they don't get it. If they do laugh, they're worried they'll offend somebody,
Mm,
because they're not actually sure what's going on. And the laugh doesn't mean where you got it in the right spot. Like, I've had bits before that I actually dropped because I knew the heart of them, I knew what I was doing, but I'd have people come up afterwards and go, "Yeah, I liked what you said about the Muslims. It's time to
mm.
keep them in their place." I'm like, "That's not an anti-Muslim joke. That was an anti-religious." Yeah, you know what? And it was in Halifax, and the guy who said it is like, "Yeah, we've got a group of us, and we've got very strong feelings about them." And I was just like, "Eesh."
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
But then again, that's just someone on the other side of the aisle that's got it as wrong, isn't it? It's just people are just a bit thick
I
sometimes.
know, but you know, like
Totally, I see what you're saying.
when you look at it, then you got a long drive home, and you're thinking, okay, I know how I meant it, but if people are getting it on that level, is it really worth it? If it's a strong enough gag and it's a strong enough point of view, then you just go, okay, well, some people can misunderstand it on that, but
Mm.
I still want to make the point. But then you do drop back and go, okay, this has to be worth it to say it, because
Yeah, I
you'll.
think when someone's sort of like recruiting you as the poster boy for their racist sell, I think you're a bit like, yeah, I might want to think about that one. But that's his bad, not
Look,
yours.
I attended a few meetings just to get to the bottom of, just to make sure that I could still do the bit.
Man, when you've been elected the leader of whatever cult it is, you've got to go and check it out at least. It might be for you. You've got to suck it and see.
Yeah. And I say you can't do that bit now. My idea for Edinburgh this year is I'm going to do two shows. I'm going to do all my clean material in one show and all my dirtiest,
Ah,
most wrongest in the next one. And I definitely have to bring that back. It's a famous bit, and there's no recording of it other than that, where I didn't know that was coming.
I
So
felt
I
for you.
had
I
to
felt for you.
what's that?
I felt for you. I could feel it. Like when you was in that green room with
Yeah,
Provenza, and he went, "Oh, you want to do the bit?" And I could see you sort of going, "Oh, fuck, he's asking me to do a bit." It's all, but you're on camera, you can't say no. Did you feel completely
I
trapped?
know. But it's supposed to be like like the idea of that show is it's like a green room with it's a green room that you're in with Janine Garofalo, Doug Stanhope, David Tell, and Richard Belzer, and Paul's like, so you want to do a bit? Like, if I was ever in that green room, the chances of
Yeah.
me doing a bit are very, very slim. You know?
And there's almost, and also because Attell sort of trod on it a bit, but he didn't know you was going to do a bit. I think he thought you was asking a
He
question.
apologized afterwards. I think he knew what he was doing,
Oh,
but
really?
um, there it was worth it to do it because years later, I was in San Francisco at this outdoor festival gig that every year the special guest was Robin Williams. It's a secret, but everybody knew.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing this show, and I'm on in the afternoon. There's this backstage area for food, and I'm standing in line with all these other San Francisco comics, and Robin Williams shows up. And they all just leave the line and crowd around him. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna get my chimichangas early. I don't give a shit about fucking Mork. I don't care,
Mm.
you know. It doesn't matter, you know. I'm Glenn Wool. I don't care about this guy at all. I'm scooping stuff onto my plate, and he breaks through the crowd and walks up, and he goes, "Oh, Glenn Wool. Oh, good to meet you, sir." I'm like, I had sunglasses on because it was in the afternoon. So he couldn't tell, like, my eye. Like, I just looked like the coolest guy in the world, but I just took pause. I was like, what? How does Robin Williams know my
Yeah.
name? You know? So, so he's now trying to get over this awkward silence that it's now looking like I'm just like taking measure of him, like
Mm-hmm.
quietly looking him up and down. Now my eyes are like this behind my
Yeah.
sunglasses, but he's now like, oh yeah, saw that show. Ooh, retarded porn. Oh, that's a
Oh.
hell of a that's a hell of a bit there. You get there. Oh, you get yourself in trouble with that. And then I started talking, and we were having a thing, but I was still he was just a really playful man, and he
Mm.
was trying to get me to start joking around with him, but I was just in such shock, and man, we had a nice little chat, and I shook his hand and thanked him very much for knowing who I was, and
That must be mad.
oh yeah, it's one of those ones, like, as soon as it happened, I'm emailing my parents going, regardless of anything, because, like, I did that green room show, and I was like, I was on with Doug
Yeah,
Stanhope, and my
Doug
mom's
Stanley.
like, oh, what's that, Stan? Is
Yeah,
it,
I
is
know.
it three guys? Are they Doug and Stan the brothers? Are they the Hope Boys? And yeah, they never know, but I was able to email them, and they were like,
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. That's Bill Cosby and Robin Williams.
I know. I know.
But 'cause he had a well, that's funny because tying it back to did have a reputation for lifting bits, didn't he, Williams?
Yes. Yes, he did. But
Didn't cross your mind that you're going to hear him doing the retarded porn bit
yeah, I was really worried the genie was going to come out of the bottle in Aladdin to retarded porn.
in his rainbow body warmer like Mork. Awesome. Awesome. Do you think retarded people should be allowed to do porn?
More calling Orson. More calling Orson. Come in. He's sitting upside down. Orson, tell me.
Yeah, that's funny. So you came back and you enjoying England? Are you happy here? Are you happy?
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. And although personally the life has been in absolute chaos.
Yeah, I know.
Professionally, it's going really well. I shot a TV show in Australia last year. It's a Jim Jeffries and Friends.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're waiting for that to come out in Australia. So my life may take me that way because that's going to be like on Channel 7. Everyone, public, free to air. Everyone has a crack at seeing it. And it's for people who watch TV. So it'll be 50 and older, people who could get my jokes.
Yeah, I think there is definitely. That's the weird thing. I mean, is it because I've aged? But it's like I used to think, oh, I'm young and cool. Now I just think young people are fucking idiots. But is that your perspective, but I think it has changed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because Gen Z seems to be a little more fun.
Mm.
But I think between Gen X and millennials, we were the first time a generation was ever cooler than the generation that came after them. Like even,
Yeah,
and I'm not taking all the credit for it just personally, but across the board, our movies, our music, all of it was just better. And I don't know, maybe heroin stirs the drink there and the kids don't take it and then they don't have very good songs, but we did.
I think you're right. I think the trouble with the generations that come after us, I think, is they just wouldn't. They were just never bored, so they weren't. They're not creative enough.
Well, I think the problem too is the ways to be creative is very prescribed now.
Mm,
Like where you could be creative on Twitter, but you had to sort of follow the rules of social acceptability, or else it was like this sort of public Stasi would get on you if you said anything that was outside of the realms of acceptable. You couldn't be a freak. You couldn't be
mm,
saying outrageous things because
mm,
people would just crawl all over you, and it just made you feel like shit. But even video games, where they're saying, "Oh, well, you can. It's a whole universe, and you can go in there and you can kind of do whatever you want." You can't though, because it is built. There is a limit to it. Where your
mm,
imagination, there is no limit to that. So if what you're working with is just like a studio, just make it and take it out, or a blank piece of paper, you're much more imaginative than it is with with anything. Even books, like people are reading all the books on Kindles and everything. You can't really get a dangerous book on that. They won't sell it to you. But
yeah, it's
you,
too
you
curated.
yeah, they're making you used to go, well, how could I, the amount of people that are voracious readers that have never read a book now, like a proper one, you just flick through. And I
Mm.
know it's a
Turn the
little
corner over and go back to that passage and all that stuff, innit? But it's
hard.
interesting you mentioned video games because I had this revelation or realization or theory I came up with that I think that's the big difference. The video games when we were kids, like if it was Donkey Kong or Pac-Man, you weren't just consuming, you were creating because you was looking at these little very simplistic pixels, but you were filling in the gaps with your mind. Whereas the computer games now there's dust particles and lens flares and they're just consuming it. They're not,
Yeah.
they're just, it's just sort of like, it's too spoon fed. Like we used to play like a little bit of, I don't know if you played like an ice hockey, NHL or whatever, and it was sort of a bit shit, but you'd fill it in with your head and you. I remember I was talking to a mate and he used to play these football manager games and he'd draw up like A4 bits of paper and put the league and have all this stuff on it because it wasn't in the game. And I just think even the entertainment we had to do a bit of work even when we were being entertained. It wasn't as mindless.
Yeah, yeah. No, I concur. I think it's too spoon fed. And do you know there's a theory? Do you know imaginary friends are disappearing? Kids aren't having imaginary friends anymore, and it's because too much of it's done for them. Like
Well, I guess you're hooked up to all your friends, aren't you? You know, with social
oh
media.
no, no. Also, like you don't have the imagination to have an imaginary friend. It might also to do with the ever presence of
Stimulus.
stimulation.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know
Yeah, like
that, but it makes
because you
perfect
used
sense.
to have to you used to have to wait for Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm.
So you start making cartoons in your head.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I remember my parents would watch certain shows, and it'd be this most dry, boring ass old old person TV, but it might have had animated credits, and I'd watch the credits of an adult show and then leave the room.
I know, and you always wished it was a whole show of
Yeah.
them. Like, and you sort of, if you didn't know, because Canada was bad for that too, where we had a lot of British shows, so you'd see like the start of
Mind Your Language, for example.
yeah, and you go, oh, it's gonna be a cartoon. You know, it was just like a guy in a flat cap waggling his finger.
Yeah. But it's like I got an 8-year-old stepson now, and he's on his iPad. He walks out to the car, sits in the car, gets the iPad again, and it's just modern life, and it's just like. But he is very imaginative, actually, so he's probably not the best example. But I've got 2 teenage boys, and also that when I was young, right, we used to have these shows called like Clive James on television, and they would sort of mock Japanese television and how sort of like one-dimensionally weird and camp and dumbed down it was. And now we've just imported that rather than I think the short little videos of. Have you seen them girls what pretend they're like anime people and they just sort of say the same phrases over and over again and that?
No.
It's like a sex thing, but I saw someone talking about, like Louis Theroux had this woman on his podcast, and it's like they sort of go, ching cha, like they just keep, like, they're pretending to be like these little animated. So we now got, and I've noticed that with YouTube videos, they used to try and get the digitized voice to sound like humans, and now, have you noticed there's a generation of people that when they do their commentary on their YouTube video, they try to sound like AI rather than they're trying to get AI to sound human.
All right.
But anyway, bit of a tangent. But I just think that we're so fucking. I don't know. We're sort of like it's a race to the bottom. It feels like culturally at the moment.
Yeah, I do. My son loves YouTube. And I watch it over his shoulder sometimes, because generally I'll let him put that on, and I can watch a sporting event.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Or on my computer, but that as a system that works really well because I'm now spending more time with him than my father would have ever spent.
There is that.
Like there would never be. Unless it was a sporting event, me and my dad would never want to watch the same thing. Like when I was 6, my dad was, my dad wasn't 50 when I was 6, but that's my mistake. So
yeah, well, that's not a mistake. But the only time my dad was, I grew up in that time where you just did what your parents did. So I used to follow him around the market and he'd be looking at tools and stuff, and I'd just be stood next to him while he looked at a hammer. But then it's like, now you're on a fucking little plastic train with your son at every. We've got to just completely bend to their whim. But anyway, man, thanks for coming. Is there anything you want to say before you go? You got anything to plug or anything?
Yeah, no, I think just come. I think I might tour that Edinburgh idea afterwards. So keep an eye
yeah,
out.
let's get back to that then. So I'm like this. I enjoy doing the dark stuff more than because I was thinking, how would I feel if I had an hour of light and an hour of dark? I enjoy doing the dark stuff. But when I write a bit that isn't dark or sex, I'm so fucking pleased with myself. Do you get that?
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm finding now is I don't want to do the really dark stuff in a regular show because I don't want to upset anybody.
You're springing it on them, really, aren't you?
Yeah. So if you have like a show, go, okay, just come for it. I'm really good at writing it. It's not going to be. It's not.
Yeah. Glenn's not shot, guys. It'll be good stuff, but with challenging themes.
And the clean stuff is also challenging themes. It's just I don't swear, and I probably won't bring up pedophilia. And I might.
No, but that's the thing. You like I said with the porn bit you were talking about. It wasn't just like a cheap, shocking laugh. It was like and the way you phrase it with a rhetorical, with a question, like, do you think they should be able to do porn? It's like, well, of course they should. And you're like, well, actually, if you think that, then. And so it is, again, it's like I said, I just think some people aren't ready to be challenged. It's like they've got the talking points, and people don't seem to really go beyond that sometimes, do they? This is the bullet point of what I think. And then when you challenge them, go, why do you think that? Like, oh, shut up, I don't want to hear it. It's a bit like that.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, and I can understand people's point of view too. If a night out is, it
Hmm.
sort of changed it with the internet. Did change that style of comedy too, because a lot of the times these people would be in arguments all day on the internet
Yeah.
over what's appropriate and what, you know. So if they want to go out at night, they probably don't want to be on two sides of the culture war either. But um,
And with that, I think online we're sort of digitally nailing our colours to the mast a bit more, so you sort of feel painted into your own corner maybe as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm lucky. I've gotten off the internet. I do. That's what I should have plugged. I do a podcast with Andrew Maxwell called "Egypts of the World,"
Yeah.
and now all of my social media output is just clips to my podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm in a much better space.
Yeah,
Oh,
when you're using social media as an advertising tool rather than a window to your own life, that's where it gets fucked up, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
yeah. What
evil.
my plan is now is to go. I've got a bunch of old specials that I've not done. They're just sitting there, so I'm going to chop them up and start putting them online. Probably after I tour this light and dark show, because the light stuff, it'll be all old. You know, I think it'd be a mix of old and new, but there's no reason to start releasing it right now. But
Yeah. Well, so what's your Twitter then or whatever where you put this stuff?
Glenn Wool on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Glenn Wool, and you'll find it.
Yeah, you find Glenn. So thanks for doing it, man. Anything else you want to end with, or is that all good?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go make some spaghetti, and I don't know. Do you think trick or treaters?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out tonight because it's Halloween. But was that a big thing in Canada? Because when I was a kid here, it just was not a thing. Like it
Do
just
you
wasn't a thing.
mean you're going out on your own, or you're taking your children out?
Oh no, my children are with their mum. Stepson's with his dad. Me and my wife are going to go out so we don't have to give away sweets. We're going to go sit in the pub.
I thought you meant you were going trick or treat.
I go burgling. But
Yeah, like acting like you're teenagers
I've
in a bed.
never ever gone to a Halloween party or anything. It just missed me, man. I just find it so bizarre. I just find it so weird that adults dress up and I mean in America it's always like you got to be sexy this or that. It's like oh sexy vampire, sexy fucking. Isn't it that in America they sort of
Yeah.
just like
Well,
slutty M&Ms or whatever.
I took my kids to a birthday party yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, it's fancy dress," and I forgot that until it was a day. It was we were in for the night. I'd put, I'd bring in because it's half term. We'd set a little fort up in front of the TV. We sleep downstairs in half term.
Yeah,
I don't care who knows it.
like camping.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically like having a hotel room. They get as excited. Like, whoa, the mattresses are coming downstairs. It's really easy and cheap.
Put your kettle next to
Um,
the telly to make it that Travelodge experience.
uh, but yeah, so I'd forgotten that it was. So we had to like make costumes out of what we had in the house. And luckily, like the kids now, a lot of their stuff, a lot of their play stuff is a costume.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
most kids got an Iron Man in the room
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. The the
But
fucking
my
suit with all the
daughter,
abs and that.
yeah, yeah.
I want
I,
one.
I'm trying to get one in a large.
Exactly. I want one with a
Uh,
big old dick.
yeah. Yeah, they and in the end they didn't let me into that children's party. I made them
Exactly.
procure one. But,
I put a parrot on it and said I was Jack Sparrow.
yeah, would the large penis Iron Man please leave the party? Sadly, 4 guys left because they didn't want to be seen as not.
Yeah, you've got to go, haven't you? You can't stay after that, and that comes over the tannoy. That's a room emptier, isn't it?
Yeah, 4 guys left. 2 women followed, so I don't know what.
I'll just not open that can of fucking worms.
2 of the sexy cat women followed him into the parking lot. I think that's where the story ends.
Yeah, but we didn't have this trick or treat. Halloween is a very American concept. When I was younger, I don't know, just unless my parents were just too tight and never told me about it. I don't even Halloween even that was a thing, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's big. It's big in Canada, but it's also big for fireworks. Like you used to. I lived on the border, as most Canadians kind of do. Like 90% of Canada is within
Oh,
10
really?
miles of the American
So were you
border.
anywhere near Niagara Falls?
No, no, other side.
Right, it's big. It's a big country. I do know that.
It's bigger than you think.
Yeah, I think it's big, but it probably is bigger than I think.
No, it's bigger than you think,
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah. Well, you're still back on the dick talk.
Is that the name of the podcast? Back on the dick talk.
Yeah.
Just thanks. Hello,
Dick
first time caller, long time listener. But because firecrackers are illegal in Canada,
Oh, really?
but they're not in America. I think it's an extension of their gun laws. I think it's so their gun laws are so lax that you can't even regulate the sale of fire.
Is it because it scares the polar bears? But you must start across the border into America the way Americans do in Mexico. Because it's like, we're going to go down to Tijuana and watch a donkey fuck a woman.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we don't have to leave Canada for that. She's still there. She's getting on, but she's still doing it.
Fucking echo.
Yeah. Is it bad that she's retarded?
Yeah, should retarded people be able to fuck donkeys? It's got to upgrade the tag.
Yeah, so you'd go down to the States and you'd buy all these firecrackers. Then you'd have to sneak them back across the border, and then you know, it's sort of like a Looney Tunes drug trade, like an entry level, and like it's just really exciting when you're lighting off firecrackers and the cops can chase you. If they hear you, like. And it'll attract a cop. There's the things called bottle rockets, which those ones you hold by a stick. Now you're not supposed to. You're supposed to put the stick in a bottle and light it, and it goes shoo. But people would hold on to them and like shoot them at friends.
We used to do that.
Yeah. That to me is more about Halloween, but that was also more of. Just that's what fall is, and you'd smell gunpowder.
Yeah,
it was pretty.
That's interesting because here we've got fireworks night. Do you have the 5th of November because we had the gunpowder treason, and we've all got to celebrate some bloke not blowing up Parliament, which I never got. So fucking, I'd rather celebrate someone that did at the moment anyway.
Yeah. Well, it all seems very dangerous too, like these massive fires.
Yeah, burning the effigies. It seems a bit mawkish when you think about it. But so anyway, Glenn, thanks so much for doing it. Glenn Wall on Twitter and everything. And good luck with what's going on in Australia. I never knew about that. And I'll keep everything crossed for you. And get on Tinder, bruv.
Yeah. No.
You'll get there again. You'll get your dander up. Keep marching on.
Hey. The dander, there's no problem with getting the dander up. And I don't want a rumor cat now.
No, of course not.
I've got plenty of up in my dander.
Yeah. You just got to choose to just shoot it at the right person. I was trying to do a bottle rocket analogy, but I was like, that was half-assed.
Hey, I've stuck it in a few bottles.
Of course, man. I can stick mine in a cowpole bottle. All right, anyway.
You know, there's easier ways to get that medication.
No, but kids like it that way. I don't own a teaspoon. Come on, man. You got to improvise sometimes. Daddy's special syringe.
Well, I believe you, but I'm not a judge.
Yeah.
So, take that with a grain of salt.
You're my character witness. Anyway, cheers, Glenn. Thanks for doing it.
Later, Justin.
Thanks, man.